If you want to become an entrepreneur, I think getting your CPA license is one of the best ways to get exposed to the entrepreneur experience while still building a skill set that's very robust and resilient, and also is going to compensate you fairly. So you're going to be making usually above average income as a CPA. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and in today's video we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're not going to be talking about the real estate you're used to me talking about. I'm actually going to talk about, is it worth it to become a chartered professional accountant here in Canada, or for our US brethren, should you become a CPA? Well, if you didn't know, I've actually been a CPA for a long time. When I went through the process here in Canada, it was originally called just a CA, Chartered Accountant, but since then it's been renamed into a CPA here in Canada. Now, a lot of people reach out to me and are just curious, a lot of younger individuals especially, you know, they're in high school or university thinking about becoming a CPA, and they wonder, is it worth it? You know, if I want to be a real estate investor, is becoming a CPA worth it? If I want to become an entrepreneur, is CPA worth it? Or if I just want to have a successful career and make lots of money, is a CPA worth it? So I just want to share my experience and my opinion and my perspective in regards to whether a CPA is worth it or not. Now, this is just one man's opinion, so again, please take it with a grain of salt. But if you didn't know my background, I originally worked articling to become a CPA for BDO Dunwoody here in Canada. And I actually worked in a bunch of different offices during that period of time and bounced around between kind of 5 different offices. Now, we'll get into that in a second. And I actually think that was a really valuable experience. But then after that, I worked for 2 years in London, Ontario, just at the BDO office here. And then finally, I progressed or decided to kind of switch career paths and go into industry and actually switch it up and join a publicly traded pharmaceutical company. And that was really interesting because I got to work as the sole financial controller, really preparing the financial statements that eventually got, you know, put out there into the world for investors to see. So I've had a bit of experience as a CPA, but obviously every individual is going to be different and unique to themselves. But for myself, you know, I've always been very entrepreneurial. I always wanted and knew I wanted to own my own business or businesses. I knew I wanted to start things. I love ideas and trying to implement them and see them through the entire implementation process. So throughout my history, you know, in high school I had a paintball field, in university I had a small clothing store and skateboard store, and then later in university tried an import-export business that kind of failed. Since then, became a real estate investor, you know, started my YouTube channel, my media brand, all sorts of different businesses now, 2 tech companies. Probably between all my different businesses, I have 15 to 20 employees at any given point in time, plus we use a variety of contractors as well. So that's a little snapshot of who I am and what my experience is, and I just think that that context is important so that you guys at least know how to gauge or mark you know, my opinions on the CPA versus what your goals are. So if everything I talked about there sounded really boring or something you're not interested in, probably shouldn't even take my advice. But if you're interested in that, maybe my advice applies to you, so listen on. All right, now when it comes to, is your CPA worth it? Overall, I think yes. And the reason I think becoming a CPA is so valuable is the experience you get while you earn that designation. As well, it is a pretty good degree, and it is a pretty good profession, and it will likely result in making an above median income. So again, that's great for a variety of reasons, obviously, but let's first talk through the experience you get. So I actually feel like it was a great benefit to work for multiple different offices at one time. And what that really exposed me to was a variety of different partners, a variety of different businesses and industries as well. And so I originally joined the Mitchell, Ontario office of BDO. Really small office, and they had never taken on a full-time CPA student before, so they weren't sure if they had the capacity for me. So they ended up sharing me with a couple other offices. I actually really enjoyed that because it really forced me to get good at, you know, time management as well as juggling multiple balls at once. And this would later really come in handy once I own and operate multiple different businesses. That's kind of what I do today. So throughout my experience, you know, doing taxes, doing review engagements, audits, and even just notice to readers, every time I'd get a new client, I viewed it as an opportunity to learn a new business. So as an accountant, you're often, especially if you're doing a review or a audit engagement, you're going to learn the processes. You're going to understand the basic operations of the business and the flow of money. You're as well going to see the financial snapshot. You're going to get to see the intricacies of the cash flow and really understand how that works. And to me, that's just like getting paid to learn about businesses, and not just like theoretical businesses, but these are real life businesses that are happening today. That experience is invaluable in my opinion if you want to become an entrepreneur, because understanding the financial fundamentals and the intricacies of business operations is so critical to being able to build a scalable, successful business, in my opinion, and based upon my experience. So I love the fact that I saw, from sole proprietors to companies with dozens of employees, to companies with hundreds of employees, to companies with hundreds of locations. Again, getting to see all those different snapshots by working for a variety of offices was fantastic. So that experience was amazing. Now, I've heard from other CPA peers of mine that they worked for a really big firm and a really big office, and for the first few months, they just did the cash section, or they just did the receivable section. Hey YouTube, have you guys been enjoying the sponsorship splash page we have at the end of every YouTube video now? Do you guys like it? Are you a business owner or maybe just a real estate influencer or investor and you'd like more exposure to potentially my YouTube audience? Well, now you can help support my YouTube channel as well as grow your personal brand or your business brand by sponsoring my splash page. It's really not that expensive, and if you want to find out more information, it'll be all below in the video description down. So just go grab it, reach out to my team, and let's chat. Now, I've heard from other CPA peers of mine that they worked for a really big firm and a really big office, and for the first few months, they just did the cash section, or they just did the receivable section. Now, that experience, I'm sure, has its own values, but if you're going to only be working on one client or one section for months at a time, or potentially, your entire first year, well, getting to understand a business that deep, or a part of the accounting cycle that deep, or financing cycle that deep is valuable. I personally think it wouldn't have been a good fit for me. So I'm really glad that I worked at a smaller firm in a smaller office and really got to bounce around and get a variety of different experiences and exposed to a variety of different businesses, entrepreneurs, and things of that nature. And what's also great about auditing small businesses is you actually are often interacting with, the operations manager or even the owner of the company. And getting that sort of exposure at a young age and being able to just, have those tangential conversations, you really get to absorb a lot of what made them successful. And a recurring theme that I noticed from a lot of the different entrepreneurs I interacted with through my business was they were hardworking as fuck. Like, they really put in the work and they were very driven. And that made me realize that, like, shit, it's not just enough to have a good idea. It's not just enough to have good intentions, but you have to be willing to put in the work. A lot of these entrepreneurs would often be the first to show up and the last to leave at their office. And that really stuck with me, and it really helped mold my thought process. Because a lot of us, when we're coming up through university and high school, we're all looking for get rich quick. We think that we need to become a millionaire at 18 or 19 these days because of YouTube and social media and all that. And while that is possible, and that may be the right choice for some individuals, a lot of us don't at that age especially, and based upon our influences, our friends and family, we don't have that risk tolerance. We're not willing to bet it all on black at the age of 18 or red, that's a roulette reference. But we could kind of get a bit of mentorship, in my opinion, through the CPA articling process. And so if you go through that process, you're really going to be exposed, if you join the right company, to a variety of different businesses. I think that that's invaluable for anyone that wants to become an entrepreneur, but maybe doesn't know exactly what type of entrepreneur or what type of business they want to start. That was definitely me. I knew I wanted a business, but really wasn't sure what business I wanted to own or operate or get into. And getting to see a bunch of different businesses really helped. I got to see what people that own KFC or Taco Bell franchises were making, what people with a Swiss Chalet franchise made. I got to see what someone that owned an OHL team made. I got to see what someone with a multinational corporation made. And getting all those different exposures at that young of an age, that experience is just invaluable. Like, in hindsight, I almost feel like I got, robbed the bank on that one. I probably should have been paying them just for the exposure and experience I was getting. Now that doesn't mean as an clean CPA get pushed around, but you usually don't have a lot of leverage when it comes to negotiating your salary, so you're often just going to take whatever's kind of given to you. But moving forward, as I then continued to progress throughout my CPA career, and I transitioned into industry and started working for that publicly traded pharmaceutical company, that opened me up to a whole nother world. And all of a sudden, I guess, taking a step back, one thing to understand about the other aspects of businesses, if you go into sales or marketing, or if you go into operations, you go into HR, I feel like it takes longer and it's a slower process to get to talk to the people at the highest level of the company. If you're in the financing function, you often get more access and a better understanding of what the CEO actually does, what the CFO actually does, what the COO actually does, and you get to interact with those C-level employees on a much more regular basis than I think other lower-level employees in the different silos of the business get exposed to. So I don't think normally, I think you need to almost become the VP of marketing or sales before you regularly get to interact with those C-level employees. Where in the financing function, it's a lot more common that you're going to be on the phone with the CFO if you're the controller a lot. You're going to be on the phone a lot with the VP of finance and even the CEO potentially. And getting exposed to, again, the work ethic that it takes to run a publicly traded company, to be the founder of it, getting that experience, again, has paid off so much for myself in my current career. I guess what I'm trying to say, guys, is if you want to become an entrepreneur, I think getting your CPA license is one of the best ways to get exposed to the entrepreneur experience while still building a skill set that's very robust and resilient, and also is going to compensate you fairly. So you're going to be making usually above average income as a CPA. And if you decide to jump into entrepreneurship, when you decide to jump, those CPA credentials will open up certain doors. You can even just get like professional lines of credit, which means like they'll give you as a CPA likely more money than they might a marketing grad or a sales grad. And so again, getting access and just having it open up doors. There's people that take meetings with me just because they see those letters at the end of my name, CPA. And so again, I view everything as a tool. I think the CPA tool is very valuable. And I think if used right, and if you're really focused on getting the right experience while you're going through the CPA process, you'll really become a well-rounded business individual. And that lasts a lifetime. So I'd love to hear, did you guys enjoy this video? Do you like it when I talk about my CPA experiences? Did you just watch this video for the first time and find my channel for the first time because I talked about being a CPA? If you guys did, what I need for you is jump in that comment section, give me some feedback, let me know what other CPA-oriented videos would you like me to make. I'm an open book, guys. Let's talk about it. Otherwise, if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.